Financial discipline is choosing between what you want right now and what you want most. And you're not going to like what I have to say about financial discipline, but here it goes. Most people will stay broke because they just can't say no to themselves. Plain and simple, financial freedom does not come from following your passions. It comes from sacrifice and self-control. And if you cannot control your spending, you don't actually want to be wealthy. We live in a culture that glorifies treat yourself, but that mindset is a financial trap that keeps millions and millions of people from true wealth. Instant gratification is the biggest threat to your financial future, and most people would rather just stay comfortable than face that truth. We're told to chase our dreams and live in the moment, but for most people, this approach leads to nothing but empty bank accounts and shattered financial goals. If you want freedom that only real wealth can bring, it starts with choosing what you want most over what you want right now. And are you willing to break free from the cycle that keeps everyone else broke? If you're serious about building wealth, it's time to ignore what's popular and focus on what's powerful. Mastering the art of saying no to today's wants for tomorrow's goals. What's more important, a moment of pleasure now or a life that you say you want? Choosing wrong here could keep you stuck forever. Stick around and I will tell you, in my opinion, the best ways to make this happen. So here are my top 10 financial disciplines essential for getting to whatever your definition of wealthy is and getting to a position of financial freedom. So to me, the first thing is you have to get and stay financially educated. The financial world constantly evolves, and making a habit of learning about how your income works, your expenses, your debts and your revenues, your spending, your saving, investing, real estate, taxes, inflation, retirement planning. There are so many personal finance strategies that you need to stay empowered and make informed decisions on. And honestly, many of them are not that complicated. They just make it seem that way and making you think that you all need help with all things financial. And many of these things are very simple. We talked about them, many of it in other videos. It's not as complicated as you might think that it is. The second one, and to me, this is almost the most important one, is controlling impulse spending. And this to me is the biggest reason why people have issues getting ahead financially, and it's mastering self-control and saying no to impulse purchases. It's essential, and it often means you have to delay gratification to focus on the long-term goals, which is not an easy thing to do, but starting off small and eliminate things like eating out too much, door dashing food too much, buying clothes that are too expensive, maybe having multiple subscriptions that you don't even use. And you might even have to do things like your car might be too nice and you need a smaller car payment or a lesser car, or having toys that you can't afford like boats and RVs and campers. The list goes on. And as someone who's a real estate agent sitting in living rooms all the time, I watch people over and over and over when we're trying to sell their house. You see them worrying about the price of the house. They say things like, I need to sell for this much money. And a lot of times part of why they need to sell for this much money is because they're trying to figure out a way to get some extra equity out of their house to be able to pay off some of these other debts. And personal loans and debts for boat payments and car payments are things that get people into a lot of trouble. Another huge one is maybe your house payment or your rent is just way too much and you live in an area that's maybe way too nice, or you have a house you just can't afford. And so you just have to be really cautious and careful about making sure those biggest expenses, things like where you live, not being too much, along with all this quick, easy spending that people get into. I have a real quick story. When I was young, into my early 20s, and I was trying to figure out getting ahead financially, we used to live in these apartments on 9th and Montello Street. And if you're from Reno and you know where 9th and Montello Street is, you would be like, why would anyone ever want to live there? And the reason that I lived there was, in those days, I was fortunate. I had parents, my dad and my stepmom, who paid for me to go to college. And they would basically pay me as if I was living in the dorms. And what was nice is when I lived in these apartments, it was way less expensive than living in the dorms. And I lived there for 3 years. And by doing that, I was able to save up a lot of extra money so that when I did graduate college, literally 2 months after I graduated college, I just started at my first real job. I was able to buy a house that year. And I would not have been able to do that if I wasn't able to actually save this money earlier on by living in a place that actually wasn't very nice, but we felt it was safe and we didn't have any concerns with that. But we were able to put a bunch of money in our pockets ahead of time. So it was a good way to get my life started and living in a place, like I said, that was well below where I would have really normally liked to live. Number 3 is, and you have to do this one, and we've done videos about this, is you have to have consistent budgeting and tracking both of money coming in and going out. And sticking to a budget gives you a clear picture of where your money goes. So early on, tracking every dollar creates an awareness and helps you, cut unnecessary expenses. And you can do it old school, like I used to do on a pad of paper with a pencil, or you can use an Excel spreadsheet, which we have a link on the website that you can use, or you can use an app. But I know lots of people like to do it lots of different ways. But if you do it and you're really diligent about doing it, at least early on, If you do it for 3 months or 6 months, it'll be something that you don't have to pay as close attention to as you go forward because then you'll know where your money's going. Number 4 is living below your means. So spending less than you earn. We talked about this in our 50-30-20 video about having a budget and having financial discipline. And you have to avoid a lifestyle and not letting your lifestyle inflate to a level beyond what your income is. And of course, as you make more, then you want to save and invest more. And it's all just based off percentages and how you want to do those things. And so just understand that you have to be really cautious about making sure you're paying attention to these things. The next one is an emergency fund. I don't like to use the term emergency fund. Call it a rainy day fund. Call it your savings balance, whatever you want to call it. But depending on your liquidity and your income stability, having somewhere at a minimum of 3 months, upwards of 6 months, if you're someone who gets paid every 2 weeks. I'm someone who has a job that doesn't get paid on a regular basis. My income comes in different waves sometimes. I like to have a little more towards 6 to 12 months of reserves built up, but you want to have some safety net money sitting there so that when things do come up, you're not having to jump onto a credit card and pay for them in that manner. You'll have money that you can actually use, and then you can refund whatever you want to call your emergency account. If you're someone who's interested in getting your financial journey started, go to our website and please download our sample Excel spreadsheet budget so that you can start figuring out where your money's going in and where your money's going out. Automated your savings and investments. And of course, if you're somebody who gets paid every 2 weeks, you want that paycheck to being direct deposit into your bank account. And then immediately you want money to be sent to your savings. You want money to be sent to your investments. And if you're somebody who does a 401k or something like that through work where they're doing a matching thing, then they will automatically put that money in your account every 2 weeks. And it assures that you're paying yourself first. And you always want to make sure you take that money off the top and then live on the rest. And as long as you don't overspend what's going into the rest of your bank account, you're always going to be in really good shape. The next one is avoiding debt and managing existing debt wisely. So we did a video on how to get rid of your debts. And if you need to understand how to get your debt paid off, go check out that video that we did before. But you need to practice and live a debt-free lifestyle, especially with high interest debt like credit cards and car loans and personal loans. You just need to get all that stuff taken care of. And if you're not sure the best way to get all that stuff paid off, again, go check out the video we did about your debt reduction plan because it's something you definitely need to make sure you can get the debts gone so then you can start doing more and more investing, and the sooner and the younger, the better. You have to regularly review and adjust your financial goals. They need to be clear. They need to be realistic. You need to revisit them. And early on, it might be quarterly, monthly, annually, and you're going to adjust them based on things that change in your life. You might be making more money. Maybe you were a one-person income and now you have 2 incomes. Maybe you were single and now you're married. So you need to look at these things and you need to have conversations about them so that you, and if anyone else is involved in your financial world, that you're on the same page. As a real estate agent, again, it's something where I help people sell homes many times for unhappy reasons because financially they fell apart. Investing consistently and early. Leverage compound interest by investing as early as possible. And even if those amounts are small, and avoid trying to time the market, just dollar cost to average it, have money go in there if you get paid every 2 weeks. And if you're someone like myself, who I am self-employed and I get paid on an irregular basis, I make sure that money goes into my retirement accounts every single month so that we're investing no matter if the market's up or down. And just over the long haul, it's worked out fantastically for me. And then number 10, which this one you could do, but it's kind of the last on the list. You really need to focus on those first ones, is diversifying your income streams. So initially you might be 2 people and you're relying simply on one person's income or one income source. Eventually you're going to want to see, does it make sense if we have 2 incomes? Does it make sense that maybe the person that isn't working has a side hustle and a way to make a little bit extra money? Maybe the person who's main job, you can have some sort of side business that makes money as well, whether you need to build up your skills so you can get a promotion where you work. And just think of ways where you can continually try to find ways to make more money or have money come in from multiple different ways. So for example, again, selling real estate, we eventually, about halfway through my career, created a property management business. So I have a property manager, we manage rental properties, and it creates a consistent flow of income on a regular basis versus when people buy and sell homes, I never know quite exactly when that's going to happen. So look over this list, make sure you start here. And again, it is a long-term disciplined game. So if you want to win at it, you've got to pay attention to it and you cannot ignore it. If you're someone who wants to get your financial journey started, check out this video we did about paying off your debts. It's the most important thing you can do to get started on your journey to financial freedom.